So I have a bit of a confession to make. I have a bit of an addiction. I can't stop picking up 2-player starter sets. Now I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but I wanted to give it a little bit of thought and really try and understand what makes me want to pick it up. I think there's maybe 5 reasons why I'm addicted to 2-player starter sets, and I wanted to go through them today. The first one is the perceived value. Now I say perceived value because some of these starter sets can be quite expensive. Some of them, to be fair, can be a lot cheaper. But yeah, I mean, some of these starter sets are over £100. Some of them are up to £150. So what is it about the value that I mean? Well, generally what comes in that 2-player starter set is a lot of miniatures generally, and if you were to break them down into the individual components of what you get inside, like if you take Games Workshop for example, a lot of the things you get inside a kill team box are things like you will get the rulebook, you will get 2 small kill teams, you will get the terrain that comes with it as well, and generally dice and bits and pieces. If you broke down all of the individual components inside and purchased them separately, which Games Workshop often do, then there is a saving to buying one of these 2-player starter sets. Think about some of the other games. Some of those games only have miniatures that you can buy in the 2-player starter set. I just think that when I'm making a purchase, a 2-player starter set generally feels like I'm getting some value for my money. That's what I mean by perceived value. I'm putting value into the rulebook. Sometimes those rule books are free online. I'm putting value into the miniatures. I might not like every single miniature in the box. I'm putting value into getting dice and measuring devices. I have all of those things at home already. I'm sure we all do. There is a value to a 2-player starter set, but sometimes it's just a perceived value, and it's something that we should maybe dive into a little bit more each time we look at these sets. The second thing is it's a game in a box. Very often, what you get inside one of these 2-player starter sets is everything you need to play. Take Marvel Crisis Protocol, for example. Inside this box, there is everything you need to play. There's 10 miniatures, 5 per side. There is measuring widgets, there's dice, there's even terrain inside. And everything you need inside this box will allow you to play the game. Take Code 1. Inside this box is everything you need to play. There are enough miniatures for both teams. There is terrain inside, which actually is pretty cool. There's even a mat to play on. There's dice. There is measuring tokens. There is everything that you need. Inside these boxes is a game in a box. And because of that, I always feel like, maybe going back to the value side, I always feel like I am purchasing something that I can use. It's not the same of buying a few miniatures that I then need to build and paint and then kind of incorporate into another game or a game that I already play. Here it feels like I am getting everything I need, like that Christmas morning test of I open it up and everything's inside that I need to play. Now the other side of it is, how often do I play those games? That, of course, is a different question, and that's the question we never really ask ourselves. We just keep buying those 2-player starter sets. But that aside, another reason why I kind of buy these sets is the idea that I'm getting everything I need to at least try the game and see if it's for me. Now that brings me on to my third reason why I love 2-player starter sets, and that's because it gives me an opportunity to play a new game, or at least try a new game. Not every game is going to be for every person, and these games are not that cheap to get into. It's not like we spend £30 and all of a sudden we have enough stuff to be able to try out a game and see if it's for us. We sometimes have to invest quite a chunk of money into them, and 2-player starter sets, whilst giving us a little bit of value, also give us the opportunity to have everything we need to try that new game out. There are so many games that I've found that I absolutely love just by trying them out from 2-player starter sets. Warcry was a prime example. It became the game that I pretty much played sort of above all else for quite a long period of time. Marvel Crisis Protocol we've just talked about. I got the 2-player starter set because I thought some of the miniatures were quite cool. It turns out the game's fantastic too. There are many, many games that I would never have tried if it wasn't for 2-player starter sets. I think that's another reason why I keep picking them up. I have a history of picking up 2-player starter sets and then falling in love with certain rule sets that I maybe otherwise might not have tried. Or maybe I had a preconceived idea of what I thought of that game, and then when it comes to reality, I try it out and it's a lot different to what I expected. The fourth one is the mixture of models that you get inside. Now, I mentioned in the value thing that sometimes there are miniatures inside those starter boxes that you might not like that much, but there's enough value in that box that it's still worth picking up. There has been factions that I've not really sort of been that interested in until I've seen those models in the flesh. It's given me an opportunity to build and paint miniatures that I otherwise would never have given a second look to. A prime example for me is I got the Firefight 2-player starter set. The Enforcers and the Marauders are the two factions that come inside the box. The Marauders were all new stuff. I was really looking forward to seeing them. The Enforcers, I always felt like they were kind of like a little bit bland, a little bit plain. I didn't think the sculpts were all that great. However, when I built them and then come to paint them, the Enforcers are now probably my favourite faction for that game, because actually they painted up super fast. I think they look great when they're all done, and without picking up that 2-player starter set, I'd never have given the Enforcers an opportunity. So yeah, picking up a starter set can give you some miniatures that you didn't think you really wanted, but sometimes it can actually give you miniatures that you didn't think you wanted that you actually really do. Now, the fifth reason is I think that psychologically it gives you some kind of purpose to your purchase. We all want to feel that we're not just wasting our money. A lot of us buy things and end up with a huge pile of grey plastic, and we really can't get away from it. But I think sometimes buying 2-player starter sets means that actually there's something in that box that I can invest in, really. Now, when I say invest, I mean that, as I said before, it's a game in a box. I'm not just buying random bits and pieces. I'm playing something that can be playable from what I've spent my money on. It's given me lots and stuff to actual build and paint. So it's actually given me a hell of a lot of hobby time and a lot of sort of hobby for my money. And as I said originally as well, there's some kind of value to it. Generally, you're saving a little bit of money by buying these 2-player starter sets. So I think that there's a psychological thing that kind of scratches that itch for me when it comes to 2-player starter sets, that I always feel that actually I'm not just spending money on random minis, I'm spending money on something that has some kind of purpose. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one who has this addiction to 2-player starter sets. As soon as I see something, my eyes look straight down that list. There's a new game out. Where's the 2-player starter set? What's inside it? And I was surprised at how many games actually don't have 2-player starter sets. Now, I think if you're releasing a game these days, a 2-player starter set is definitely the way to go. A lot of people say, I don't like either of the factions that's in there, and that's absolutely reasonable. Those folks will be able to go and buy separate armies, buy bits and pieces, buy the rulebook separately. But I think for a huge chunk of people, a 2-player starter set is the perfect way to be able to build everything, paint everything, and be able to introduce a friend to a game that they're interested in. And I find that if people have to buy multiple items, like you have to buy this rulebook, then you have to buy this sort of starter army, then you have to buy this starter army, then you've got to buy these measuring devices, I think those kind of things, once it's multiple purchases, start to become a little bit of a barrier to entry. And I think 2-player starter sets really do kind of open the door to people trying out new games. So let me know what you think. As I said before, I'm sure I'm not alone in this. I'm sure I'm not the only person who loves a 2-player starter set and has some kind of addiction to it. Let me know what you picked up. Let me know what games you've bought through a 2-player starter set and thought that you wouldn't love, and actually it turned out that you did. Which ones have you bought that you really regret and you wish that you could return them and get your money back? I'd love to know what you think.